Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Breakthrough You podcast. My name is Josh Rosales, and of course, we got the host, Ashley Gaylor, and we have an amazing, very special guest, the Honorable Judge Calloway. And so thank you so much, Judge, for joining us on the Breakthrough You podcast this afternoon. Here on the Breakthrough You podcast, we just love to talk about mindset because everything I think is about mindset, right? You can have a negative mindset, you can have a positive mindset. We talk about 90% of everything is in the mind, 10% is body. If we can get the mind aligned, the body will follow. To get anywhere in life, it takes, to get to be successful. It's, success is spelled WORK. And a lot of people don't want to put in the WORK. They want the end result, but they don't want to embrace the pain. They don't want to embrace the process. They don't want to do what it takes to get there. I mean, you got single mothers graduating from law school. You have single fathers that are doing it. Like, it's all about mindset. It's like it's mind over matter. It's really doing it, especially a lot of your business, your entrepreneurs, your business leaders, business owners, nonprofit community, faith-based leaders. I mean, anything you want to do, you can do. You can go anywhere you want to go, be anything you want to be, do anything you want to do. The American dream is free. It's just not being passed out. And for us, it's all about, yes, some of us may have to work harder than others, but I really feel like if you really work hard, like, success is all around you. You gotta look for clues. And I really believe that success leaves clues, and those successful people. I was talking to a group of 18 kids at Hillsborough High School, and I was telling them, I was like, you have a cell phone you spend all your time on. You can pull up YouTube videos and podcasts and like all this free information, but it's how do we help them connect the dots and really take time out of our day to impart back to them. And so we talk about mentorship, and mentorship is very important, and who you hang around is very important. And so that's what we talk about, and no better example than you, Judge, on how to grind and hustle and work and building skill sets along the way, because I know you just didn't like walk up on a stage and get a degree and they're like, oh yeah, I mean, there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, late nights, sacrificing. I mean, it's just a lot, but you can't get away from that unless you win the lottery, right? I mean, but who's going to win the lottery? Not a lot, I know I probably would never win the lottery, but you got to work at it. Plus, I think you fall in love with the process. They say it's about the process, not about the destination, and that could be argued. But we just like talking about it and bringing individuals on our podcast and just talking about, because everybody has a story, and I want to hear your story. I know we networked pre-COVID, we and I know you're the who's who in Nashville when it comes to just the community. And so it's just an honor for me to have you on our podcast and just really kind of speaking to mindset and what it takes. And of course, you see a lot of youth day in and day out, and there's a disconnect there. And like, we gotta connect the dots for them. And so with all that said, welcome to the podcast, Judge Calloway. We're so glad that you're on with us.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
And of course, we got Ashley Gaylor. Ashley is an entrepreneur as well, and part of our Breakthrough Nashville board, and just all things nonprofit. And it's really incredible that when we talk about nonprofit work or talk about community and helping people, that when we help others, it in turn comes back to us. And that's what it is. It's like, it's all about helping others. Who can I help? Who can I connect? Who can I network with? Who can I show tips and tricks that I've learned to help better them and in turn better me? So enough about us. Judge, I want to, first of all, if you can introduce yourself to everyone, probably everyone probably already knows you, but introduce yourself and currently, what are you, your role within Davidson County, being a judge?
So absolutely. So I am Sheila Calloway, and I am the juvenile court judge in Nashville, Tennessee. I don't do much.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. I'm telling you, you so busy. You're like, get Kim. Go tell got email Kim.
I do stay busy. I'll say that I'm fortunate to have this job. Literally, this is I didn't know when I went to law school that I would end up being a judge. I had no idea that I was actually going to do juvenile law. But once I came down here, I guess I'll give you just a little background for who I am and where I started and everything. But I am from Louisville, Kentucky, and was just privileged to have wonderful parents who both they met each other in college, and they recognized, especially for in when they went to college, going to having being Black people in the community, they realized that their choices of college were limited where they could go. But they recognized how important it was and how education was going to make a difference. And there was never a chance in our household that you weren't going to go to college. There wasn't, it was always an expectation that you are going to college. But since the door was open for us to go to wherever we wanted to go, it was just a question of where do you want to go? And so I wanted, my sister who was 2 years older than me, her best friend moved from Louisville, Kentucky to Nashville to go to school at Vanderbilt. And she would come home and talk about how great Vanderbilt was. And I didn't want to go to school with my sister, which is what my parents wanted. I was like, no, I ain't doing that. And so I said, maybe I can go to Vanderbilt since Carla's there and it sounds like a great school. And at least I'll know somebody and, you know, y'all can feel okay. It's almost like my sister. And so they agreed. And I came down here in 1987 to go to undergraduate. And I stayed here for law school. And I got stuck in Nashville. Just fell in love with, first and foremost, fell in love with Vanderbilt, and then fell in love with the Nashville community after that. And
I don't know if there was anything back in the 80s about Nashville that you could fall in love with.
I know, right? It's so different now, but I did. I really loved it here. And I think it really was Vanderbilt that drew me to it. And yeah. I kind of like that, the kind of small Nashville that, you know, was a city, but not too big and not too much, but enough to figure something out to do. So
most definitely.
Yeah, I stuck around, but never, ever, ever did I think I was going to end up being a judge. I left, graduated from law school and started out in the public defender's office and talk about God's work and talk about hard work. When I was in the public defender's office, it was like literally the first time I met people with true mental health illnesses and homelessness and drug addictions. You name it. It was the first time I really seen it and had, you know, worked with people that were actually suffering. And it just added so much to my experience and helped me to first and foremost recognize my privilege and just the blessings that I had of growing up with a loving parents in the same household who both held me accountable for the things that I did, but also allowed me some independence to grow, but grow in a structured manner where I knew that if I failed, they would still be there to love me and to help me through. But they would also let me fail if I needed to. And so I saw people who didn't have that loving, structured childhood. And
why do you think that? Well, I mean, we see a
And
night.
there are so, yeah, there's so many reasons that people don't have that same opportunity.
But it is
And
good. Thank God for parents that really care, and thank God for fathers that. I mean, it takes two, and
it takes
thank
two.
God that thank God for that. But yeah, that's but for the grace of God go I.
But for the grace of God go I, and I am grateful each and every day. Unfortunately, my father recently died, and
I'm sorry about
I,
that.
oh, thank you. But I say that in a sense of pride that I had absolutely, I'm aging myself, but I had a absolutely wonderful 52 years of life with him. And when I think about working in juvenile court, and a lot of youth who are not, don't have the privilege of having their fathers in their lives, don't have the privilege of growing up with that structure and with that love, that unconditional things that, fathers do for their children. It just it saddens my heart. It's one of those things that help me to work harder to help all of our youth, because everybody deserves to grow up the same way that I did. I shouldn't be privileged. I should be normal. This should be an average growing up, that everybody should have the opportunity, because that's how we're going to succeed in our communities. You bring the family back and you strengthen the family, and it doesn't even have to be parents that live together, but they have to both be able to contribute to the success of their children. But until we learn that and we start doing that, we're never going to change the trajectory of our communities. And so that's why I love my job. And so, I went to the public defender's office, worked in the adult division for a while. I absolutely loved that experience and learned a lot. But it was hard work. It was definitely hard work. And it was a lot of times disheartening. And I felt working there that many times I was just like the speed bump on the road to injustice, and that things never changed. And it was the same cycle, and we weren't really helping people. And I needed to be in a position where I could help people. And so I moved to the juvenile division of the public defender's office. And literally that was in 1998. And I had been doing juvenile law ever since. And I didn't know it was my passion. I didn't know that that's what I wanted to do. And when I got here, and there was a true sense of, we got to help these children. We got to help these youth. We got to help these families. Then I said, oh yeah, this is where I need to be. So I was a public defender for juveniles until 2004. And then I was appointed to be a juvenile court magistrate, which is like an assistant judge. I did that from 2004 until 2013. And then I worked my tail off to campaign and to become the next elected juvenile court judge. And so I campaigned from like November of 2013 until May of 2014, where I was successful in the primary and won. Woohoo! And
I know.
Yeah. So I was appointed to be the juvenile court, or elected to be the juvenile court judge, and took office September of 2014. So I had an 8-year term, and I am at the end of my 8-year term.
But you don't have anyone running against you now, though, right?
No, so I'm signing up for another 8 years.
Well, I'm in your district, so you'll get my vote.
Yay!
So I remember the first time that I saw you. I was working with Jessica and her counterpart. I forgot her name, but they're so amazing. I'm such an amazing team. And we were going down teaching financial literacy, and it was Halloween. And of course, I was here, Judge Calloway. Everyone's talking about Judge Calloway, and like everybody knows Judge Calloway. Like Judge Calloway's in all the circles, like she's just everywhere. And then I saw you coming out and there was a Donald Duck outfit or something like that. I was like, look, that's Judge Calloway. Judge Calloway up there dancing in a Donald Duck outfit, man. We had such an amazing time that day, and seeing all the kids coming around and getting candy and the community coming together, the businesses coming together. I mean, I was like, man, I was just blown away. And I think, I mean, I don't think that all comes from you and your leadership and just the culture that you've set in the juvenile court system is that, of course, you know, we try to make the best culture that we can and bring it in. And, you know, I really think, and I know you think that same way, is like, if we can bring in more nonprofits and businesses into the juvenile court system. I think Denzel Washington, I was watching a YouTube video, and he said it. He was like, man, it's like, if the kids make it into the system, we're too late. We got to try to get them before the system. And even when they're in the system, it's like, I think it's so important that we bring in businesses and nonprofits and the community to help with these children, because a lot of them, they just need loving. They just want to be loved, and they are missing so many different things, like you said, mentorships and just people to pour into them. And a lot of times us as adults, we're like, oh, we're so busy with our lives, we don't recognize that, hey, there's kids out there that are yearning and longing and on hunger for someone just to tell them, hey, you're doing a great job, or hey, you can do anything you want to be. And then they act out. And a lot of times it's not their fault. It's because they don't know. And so I really applaud you for that, Judge. You're just incredible.
I mean, you know, most of the times I'm a father of four, you know, and coached youth football, you know, and been doing a lot of work in the community with the kids. You know, a lot of times a child just needs to hear, hey, that's not the smartest thing for you to do. You know what I mean? Maybe no one's even said that to them before. Maybe it's never even sparked a thought in their head. You know, it's just like you say, we got to watch our circles who we're with, and, you know, and kids, adults too, but mainly kids are the most impressionable. They get around their friends, they're doing things and doing things that they shouldn't be doing. That doesn't seem like that when you're in a group, right? So
Absolutely.
And I think that's where you know, having someone to tell you, hey, great job today, you know, you did, but also someone to tell you, you're not going over there. You don't need to be doing this. You need to be doing that. You know, just somebody, you know. So yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. And that's what we absolutely know that's true. When you think about youth development and child development, you know, there is science behind our brain development. And, you know, what is absolutely true is that our brains, anybody's brain, does not fully develop until around they're 25 years old. And so when you're 0 to 25, your brain is still developing and your thought process is still developing. That's why, like, it's so much easier to learn a new language when you're young, or to learn how to play an instrument when you're young, because when you're over 25, you don't learn as much because we're kind of developed and we're set in our ways. And so it is so important for us to pour into our youth so many positive things when they're young, when it can help to their development. You know, the last part of the brain that fully develops is the prefrontal cortex. And the prefrontal cortex is the part of the brain that makes decisions. And so, you know, I like to pick on men because I think if we did a really deep dive into science, that men's brain, it takes a little longer than 25.
I like 45.
Women, it's a little less than 25. For women, it's less than 25. And so it averages out to about 25 because we waiting on y'all. We just waiting on y'all to come on, hurry up. But, when you look at people, kids, and sometimes young adults that are out drag racing, right? It's a lot. Most of the time it's boys, and most of the time they're between 18 and 25, and they're like on the interstate just, betting each other. I bet I can beat you. I bet I can beat you. And they're not thinking about all of the damage that could happen if something went wrong. They're just thinking, oh, I got this race. I got this. I'm going. And they go for it, and without thinking about the consequences. And that's all about their prefrontal cortex and how it's not fully developed. They don't think about consequences. Even if they know this might be something bad, they don't see the full scope of the consequences.
Yeah,
And
I
so
mean, they're not thinking, hey, I could hit somebody and kill them, possibly kill myself.
right, that never comes into the thought process.
Yeah.
And that's
it
why
happened in 1991 when I graduated high school. It happened in my high school. 1991. They've been doing that ever since then,
ever since.
They
And
drag racing and somebody crashed and killed somebody.
Yep. And so the issue is you got to have good supportive people around you, not 24/7. We can't be around, you the whole entire time. But if you know that you've laid down that good foundation to say, stop before you do things, talk about it, let's make decisions. You got a supportive father, you got a supportive mother, you got an auntie or a grandmother, somebody that is with you to help you to understand that you got to learn how to make good decisions. It doesn't come naturally to people. And they learn from their environment. They learn from what they see. They learn from what they're hearing. And if they're not hearing that positiveness and that structuredness and that accountability piece and that actions do have consequences, if they're not learning that, it doesn't come natural to them, and they're going to continue to make bad decisions. And so that's why it's so important that we bring in nonprofits to work with our youth, that we have mentors, that we do whatever we can to support that family structure, to make sure that each child has at least one person that they can always count on to talk to think about things, to hold them accountable, to do the things that we need to help them grow and to grow in a good, mature way. That's why we don't let kids drink until after 21, right? Because they don't make good decisions. That's why we can carry our youth, our children on our insurance until they're 25. Because the insurance company knows they're not making good decisions. All these things that we do because we recognize that youth aren't making good decisions at this age is the reason why it is so incredibly important that we have lots of good people, good services, good mentors working with our youth to keep them out of the system or to keep them from escalating in the system.
And that's why they can't rent a car until they're 25 either.
Absolutely. Rent a cars, no, they're going to be out there drag racing. No, indeed. Yeah. All of that.
Drag racing is a problem we have around here. I know, because I hear them, and a client of mine is a Metro Nashville police officer, and I'm always telling him, I was like, man, I hear helicopters all the time. Are y'all chasing people, like, breaking in and stuff? He's like, no, it's drag racing. And I was like, he said, when you see the helicopters, it's most likely it's from drag racing. And I'm like, I've heard it, but I didn't know that's what they were doing. So I didn't know what a problem we had until recently.
It happens. It happens more frequently than it should, and it's something that our youth don't get how dangerous it really is.
Yeah.
So, Judge, let me ask you this: what is the best thing you like about your job, and what is the most challenging? Or let me back that up. What's the most rewarding aspect of your job, and what is the most challenging aspect of your job? And why?
Okay. So for me, the most rewarding is when you have an opportunity to see a family that comes to you in crisis, that leaves the system healed and whole. And, you know, whether that's if it's a child that for the first time has gotten into trouble and it's serious trouble, and we're able to get them through the process, whether it's probation, whatever it is that they end up going through, and they end up successful and their family is healed and whole and we never see them again, that's that leaves me satisfied. I see, you know, in juvenile court, we don't just handle cases of youth who get in trouble. We also handle cases of where parents have abused or neglected their children. And we also handle cases of just plain old child custody cases of unmarried parents. So we do all of that. And it's always about what's in the best interest of the child. And so for me, if it's like a child that's a case of a child that's been abused or neglected, seeing them, you know, after the fact, after we've gotten them, whether it's back with their family or back with a adoptive family or whoever it is, seeing them being able to be healed from the abuse and neglect and to be good and successful for youth in our community. That is probably one of the best things that I know. I have lots of cases of custody cases where parents come in and they're super bitter with each other and super unhappy and not recognizing how that bitterness affects their children and how it, you know, you think about adverse childhood experiences, and divorced and separated couples is one of the things that causes extra trauma to children. And so when they come in and they're being ugly and bitter with one another, and then, you know, they're going through the process and we have to explain to them this type of behavior is not good for the child. What's good for the child is that you all learn to work together and learn to co-parent, whether you hate each other or not. That child should never know that, because that child is half of both of y'all. Half of that child is that worst thing you think about that person that you had that child with. And so, you know, that quality that you keep telling that person, you know, is a bad quality, your child hears that and your child takes that to heart. And that does not lead to success in your child's life. And so having them finally recognize that and coming back in and saying, we're good, we got this together, we're working together, and our child's healthy and healed, that gives me much success.
So let me ask you, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say the challenges are getting to that point.
Getting to that point. No, that's what I was going to say.
You know, also for me personally, I run an office as the head, and I have about 125 staff members. And so the biggest challenge for me is having the time to do the work that I need to do on the bench to help to get families back on the right track, and putting all I can in the effort on the bench, but also not neglecting my staff that also needs my attention and my help and my guidance as their leader. And so trying to find a happy balance with that, and then keeping my own private family happy as well, and balance. It's a lot. And
that's what I was gonna. That's what I was gonna ask you. Is you know, we talked to a lot of business owners, entrepreneurs. I mean, faith-based, community-based leaders, and it's like we're all in this like entrepreneurial mindset, and even for yourself, it's so easy to get caught up in what you're doing, and you forget your kids, you forget your spouse, you forget like you're working late, you're working weekends. It's so easy. Like a couple of things that I like to, even for yourself, Judge, is like, how do you say, okay, time out? Like, my family is more important. My children are my children, my family is more important than my job, even though I love my job so much. How do you like purposefully like make time for your family? And then the second question I have is, how do you develop yourself on a daily basis? Because I feel like as leaders, if you aren't pouring into yourself, how are you pouring into your family? How are you pouring into your staff? How are you pouring into those families that are coming before you, with the wisdom that God gives you to make tough decisions? Like, it's, spending time in the Word, having devotion, books, audio books, podcasts, YouTube. Um, so how do you take that time for yourself and your family to balance that? And then how do you develop and pour into yourself where you can pour into others?
So I can answer the pour into myself better than I can the pour into my family, because I think I do that a little better. I rely on my relationship with Christ, and definitely every morning I wake up early and I take my time to have my private time with God, and it's a devotion time period that I do. It's early in the morning, like around 5:30. Or at least that's when the alarm clock goes off. It's sometime around then. But that is something that, yeah, that is something that I dedicate to do every day. And so I do that at home. And then even when I come into the office before I begin the work, and my secretary knows, and pretty much everybody knows, I come in here in my office, I sit, and I at least take another 5 to 10 minutes to do a separate devotional to get me ready for the work. And so I'm good about that. And then I am also, the thing that I love the most is singing in the choir and doing stuff for my church.
I know you. That's right. You in the choir. That's right.
And so, we haven't sung as a choir since COVID, but whenever there's the opportunity, I know my people know, don't schedule unless it's an absolutely emergency, anything on Tuesday evenings, because that's my choir night. And, I used to, when we had the choir before COVID, I directed the children's choir. Every Tuesday night was our rehearsal. And so I was not going to miss that for anything unless it was like something that absolutely had to do that. Like sometimes I have to go to the council meetings. And so I can't be like, I can't come to council because I got choir meeting. So I have to make that sometimes adjustments. But that is like just one of those things I say, no, this is what I'm going to do. When my son was younger, we had intentional time as well. Thursday night would be our family night. And so it was a time that first it started off Monday nights, and then it went to Thursday nights, but it was a time that I would devote to them and I wouldn't do anything else. And then as he got older and we all got a little busier, that kind of went away. And so I don't do as well with that time with the family that I should. But
I think a lot of people are in that boat.
Yeah, I think at most times too, because when I am home, they're both looking at me like, why is she home? What you gonna do? Like I'm messing up their schedule now when I am there. So they expect me home at a certain time, but when I come, hey, I'm home earlier. Or when I have a Saturday that I don't have anything to do, and I decide to spend home with them, they're very suspicious, and they're walking around like, why your mama still here? Yeah.
That's funny. Hey, Judge, I want to ask you a question. I want to ask you, so when it comes to like your self-development, I know you have your devotion. Is there a favorite podcast that you like, a favorite book or author that you like reading?
I don't have necessarily a favorite, but every day I read, like I'll pick out a book. For instance, the one I'm working on at home is called Resilient Walker. And it's by a girl that I know, Dr. Cherie Walker, who used to work in the school system here. And it's a book that she wrote pretty much about her life and about her family. And she gave it to me long ago. And I said, oh, yeah, I'll read that. And so it was next on my list. So people give me books and think that they're good. I read that. Cool. I have one here that I read every day, a little something from it every day, that was written by Lytle Thomas, Pastor Lytle Thomas. He's with the Inner City Ministries. and his book, he wrote pretty much about his work with the candy bar. I'll pull it out. The candy bar. So every morning I come in here and I read a little something from my Bible, whatever the scripture is that I have for the day that's on my desk. And then I read a little something from the candy bar from Lionel Thomas. And that just gets me my day started for that.
Couple
so
more.
it literally, so I don't necessarily have a particular artist or author or podcast I listen to. I just, whenever people send me stuff, I'm like, okay, let me listen. I'll put this as part of my devotion this morning. And that's how I do it.
I want to thank you. I know we're running out of time here, but I had a couple more questions. So how would you encourage someone, a business owner, that's maybe it's a parent, somebody that's listening, somebody that's watching, and they feel like giving up and they feel like it's just too much to handle. Like life is just, it's just the pressure of life, family, finances, like a small business owner, just people that get to the point where they want to throw in the towel because it just takes too much work. And it's like, is it really worth going on? What is the advice that you would have for someone like that?
You know, one thing I always say too, it's always good to talk to somebody about your thoughts. And so if it's a therapist or counseling or somebody who you can feel comfortable talking to, definitely do that. But secondly, it's there has to be that inner sense of passion that you got to fall on. And so it's as if, I went into this job not necessarily knowing that juvenile court would be my passion, but it is now. And it is absolutely where I'm supposed to be. There are so many days where, I don't get a lot of rest and I'm not sleeping a lot. And so many things that, it feels like we're taking 3 steps forward and then all of a sudden something happens or a kid does a horrible crime in the news and, it's like everything's crashing. But you can't give up. You can't give up on that kid. You can't give up on your dreams. You can't give up on your passion. You just have to have the faith that all of the work that you've done in the past is going to get you to where you need to be. And so for me, it's just having faith that and knowing that there's going to be struggles in life. I think there's plenty of scriptures that talk about, you're going to suffer for a little while.
Oh yeah.
But in the end,
the joy comes in the morning.
Absolutely. And so we have to recognize that it's not meant to be easy, but it takes hard work. But once you get to that hard work, there will be that joyous time where you can reap what you sow. And so you really have to just keep at it and keep that faith that it's going to happen. Everything's going to work out all right.
I know it's human nature. I know it's in my nature to replay things I've gone on during the day and wonder if I gotten everything done or kept me awake. Do you ever like sitting there and you just start worrying about a kid that you saw that day or the week before and be like, man, does that, I'm sure it does. So like, it'd be like wake up thinking about them, man, I hope that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing or they're going to be okay. It's got to be, that's got to weigh on you. I know.
It does. It definitely weighs on you, especially, there's one kid that I think of a lot, and he was caught up in some very bad stuff. And, but when he came to us, he really worked hard to change his life. And I gave him that chance to change and felt good and comfortable about it. And he did really, really well for probably about a year. And then just, I think he worked with some people who had gotten him a job and had gotten him in a good place where we thought, and then things started happening to him where he lost his job and lost things and then ended up where he got caught up in the same kind of thing that brought him to us in the first place. And he ended up dying. And that literally weighed heavy on me because I was like, well, maybe if I hadn't have given him a second chance, he may have been in prison for life, but he'd still be with us. And so I had to really talk to myself about, no, that's not your fault. That may not have changed. That might not have been good for him either, but you did everything that you could. And we had him with a supportive group where we thought, but sometimes things just don't work out, and it's not always in my control. It's in God's control, and I have to recognize that. And I just have to be the vessel that I was meant to be. And at least he had an opportunity, and he had a chance, and he had it in him for a while that he could have done it. And so the next kid, I'm not going to shy away from giving that second chance. But what I'm going to do is make sure that those supports last longer than the last time. And so it helps me to grow and helps me to think about the things that I can do better the next time.
Man, God bless you, because that is a tremendous amount of pressure, like to have and to carry that. So, and you know what? There's no doubt you did the right thing in my book. I mean, there's no doubt you did the right thing. We can only do what we're educated and what we feel, right? So
that's right.
Yeah. And you still walked out with a Donald Duck suit, having fun. Hey, last
we do
question.
That. We gotta make sure that we want to make this an opening and safe place for all of our youth. I remember way back when I was a magistrate, and I had a father on a case that I was part of their consequences of their action was they had to go and tell people their story and what had happened. And they were in front of this one youth group that I was there. And one of the parents asked the father of one of the kids that was having to do that, how did he feel coming into juvenile court and throughout the whole process? And he said, when I walked in the door, it was depressing. It was dark. There was, nobody was really helpful. It was just a bad place. And that went to my heart. Like, I was like, I didn't think we were that depressing. I didn't think we were that bad in the building. But it made me relook at what people walk into when they come into the juvenile court system. And I said, he's right. It is kind of dark in here. People are depressed when they come through here. It's just something that we kind of mask as the staff because we're here every day. And so I said, we got to change the culture and change the feel of this building. And so that's one of the things that I've definitely worked hard on doing in the last 8 years, and doing our annual spectacular where we just bring lots of people in here and they have fun, and the courthouse is decorated and we're all dressed up, and it is just a fun time. It is so good to see those youth and their families just coming in and enjoying their time in court.
So what can the community continue to do, or maybe somebody's listening to this podcast saying, how can I make a difference? How can I partner with Judge Calloway and the good work that you're doing? How can they partner with you?
We got a lot of things that people can partner with us to do. And there's some very specific partnerships, like they could be on our foster care review board team. We're always looking for volunteers, and that's the team that makes sure that youth who are in foster care system are getting everything that they need. And so we always need volunteers for that. We work hand in hand with groups like CASA, who are always looking for volunteers to work. I can name the number of groups that we work that are looking for volunteers to help them to sustain, as we use our diversion partnership program that you're aware of, Josh. Are always looking, the groups in there are always looking for partners. These kids need mentors, and you can, get with a good group that's offering mentorship, that helps. I love it when Josh, when you and Herman came down to talk with the youth in detention about financial literacy and giving them hope that, they're going to get out eventually. And hopefully when they do get out, coming and talking to them about how you do finances and how you, manage a checkbook, and, how do you, get a paycheck, and how do you, figure out how to do all that. That's super important for our youth to learn as well. For a while, we had junior achievement that was coming to talk to youth in detention. And it's those things that if we keep pouring into them, the positive things that we want them to learn, that's how we make a difference. And so we ask that people just come and, you just can't just come like tomorrow and say, I want to work down there. I have to set it all up. But, just if you have a special skill that that would be helpful to our youth, we can use you. We had a group of attorneys that had a book club that came and would give the youth books to read and would come back and have very good, fruitful discussions with them. That is super, super helpful. And then on the other end, we used to have people that would come in and donate like stuffed animals. And so when we have youth that have to come, and particularly our children who have been abused or neglected, they got to come to court and they may have to testify, giving them a little stuffed animal that someone's donated does a whole lot for their spirit. And, it's not as scary when they can hold the little bear that they got from someone. We also give out books where, kid-friendly books. And so, sometimes they would never have gotten a book, but yet for coming to court. And so we give them things that can help them as they go into the community and help them feel good and comfortable. So there's lots and lots of things.
There's a lot. I know. I want to be there for the spectacular, and then we'll definitely we'll connect on the talking with the youth that are there at the facility. So I really like talking. I just have this overwhelming passion for just young people and helping them connect the dots, because I think we just lose so many along the way that if we could just have an adult that would just take some time out of their day to give back, it would change. And it doesn't even have to be a lot, Judge. It's just a little. Give it a little time. Give it a little money. Give it a little something, because a little something goes a whole long way.
Amen.
We need to arrange some fishing trips. There ain't nothing better when you're a young person to go fishing with somebody that teaches you how to do it and talks about what you're catching. I got that from my father, and I passed it to my sons, and it's age old, right? It's what
that's it. Yep.
It's
a relaxing sport. It's a relaxing sport.
It's relaxing, and you teach somebody something, and it's fun, especially when they catch something. It's
yep.
I always found solace and pleasure in that with my kids, and they loved it. They still talk about fishing trips. They're all adults now, but they talk about when we go fishing every week, because we went every Sunday.
Love it.
Yeah. So,
well, Judge, I'm so honored, because I know how busy you are and everyone is pulling on you. But I am truly honored to have you on. I'm glad that this time was well spent. You had so much value to everybody, and to be able to come on the podcast and share with us. I know without a shadow of a doubt that somebody is going to be helped, and the words that you spoke today are not going to go void, but they're going to, help, encourage, and uplift and inspire somebody that is out there watching or listening to this. And, I know for our nonprofit, we've grown so much in the last year that, we are, will be involved in reconnecting with Jessica, and I'm super excited about what we're doing. And we are actually we reconnected with Pencil. We're working with 5 Metro National Public Schools in Antioch. Next year we're going to be working with a lot more. We actually just got connected with a group of Marvel superheroes, and they are incredible. Like,
awesome.
They spend so much money on their costumes. It looks like the real thing. Like, they look like they've got Batman, Wonder Woman, Flash, you got Green Lantern. I would love to connect them to you, because they would bring so much value and so much joy to those kids. Because I'm telling you, these guys are like, boom, like they're just cut. They're like just, I mean, they were looking good, handsome, and like they look like superheroes. And
I love it.
they come all dressed up. These kids will be like, wow. And the great thing about it is they're going to be working with us this coming school year, going into middle schools and elementary schools with us while we do some motivational speaking and helping with the teachers. Because a lot of these kids, man, be like, oh, we have superhero come and visit me. It's just, it'll turn a kid's day totally to a positive. But
you never know. Maybe something we're doing down there will keep somebody from being in front of her at some point.
Amen.
Oh yeah,
That's the
you don't want
goal.
to go in
That's
front
the
of Judge
goal.
Calloway.
You know?
That's the goal. Yeah, if we can do it in the community, so that we can support them out in the community, so they don't ever have to come here. That is number one goal.
Yeah, you never know.
Well, Judge, thank you so much. I know you have to get to your family, and okay, it's not Tuesday, so we're good.
Yeah, we're good. Thank you.
But,
I appreciate
thank you
it.
so much. Thank you so much. Is there a
It was
website
pleasure,
that somebody?
Judge Calloway, thank you so much.
Is there a website that someone can go to get connected?
Yeah, we have a juvenile court website, and my information is on that website.
Okay, sounds
it's in
good.
the search engine, Davidson County or National Juvenile Court. Yeah,
we'll get it. Well, thank you, Judge. I appreciate you. I'm one of your biggest fans. You have a wonderful evening.
I will. Thanks, Ashley.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Josh.
Yes, ma'am. Great to see you.
Good to see you.